Welcome. The devil has been drawn, and yet again he shall be drawn. This is the card our parents warned us about. Perhaps yours didn't, but mine sure did. In the shadows, in the nooks, the crannies, he was always there. One small mistake, one lingering look, one stray thought, or even more harrowing, emotion. Contact with a stranger, an outsider. Doubt. Surely he would consume me. Surely he would consume you. He, the prince of this fallen world, the evil rebel, the Promethean horror who rules all craving, all lust, all bodily feeling. Yea, truly, surely, he rules all that makes you unique, dear. Best not to seek autonomy. Best not to relax your mind. Best not to try, for you could misstep, all would be lost. Yes, best to simply conform and keep yourself as small as possible. The words I have just spoken felt utterly ridiculous on my tongue now, but they are the screaming nightmares of my childhood. The only air that was offered me to breathe. Precisely because it was really the only air my parents had to give me. And they were compelled by many forces to do so. And they did it because they wanted to protect me, because they loved me. And they were shaped by thousands of years of burgeoning dualism. The devil that presents himself on the Rider-Waite-Smith card is a figure who had evolved over thousands of years of cultural forces. Within the DNA of this figure is wrapped humanity's fears, secrets, hatreds, lusts, racism, justifications, and even hopes and joys. So much has been poured into this figure. To go down the rabbit hole of academic research on the evolution of the devil is to be confronted by the bizarre heart of humanity itself. One does not seek to see beneath the devil's masks without losing one's own masks. By the time that Waite was setting his golden dawned-up buns down to create his rectified tarot, occultists had been peering beneath the devil's masks for a while. And a new century was dawning that would be one of the most pivotal for humanity and the world at large, for good and deep ill. This representation of the devil was borrowed from Eliphas Levi, who based him off of an invented deity who the Knight Templars were accused of heretical worship in the 14th century. And truly, Baphomet has become a deity in his own right and an important symbol in our time. Waite envisioned the devil as the reverse of the Hierophant, as well as the reverse of the lovers. Within his pictorial key to the tarot, he writes, "The figures are tailed, to signify the animal nature, but there is human intelligence in the faces, and he who is exalted above them is not to be their master forever." Obviously, Waite is showing his own natural dualism here, taking for granted the split between the spiritual and the material world, and in his very Christian way assuming humanity's sovereignty over animals, and regarding the animal in the human animal as a negative thing to be overcome. But the seeds for our current understandings of this card were there in the loose chains around the lovers' necks that they could remove themselves at any time. And these seeds would be watered and fertilized further within our collective consciousness and unconsciousness by the work of Carl Jung within the internal landscape of the soul. Enter the shadow, and the realization that perhaps the call was coming from inside the house. So, let's now experience what Marion Marou saw when she encountered the devil this week, with the wonderful musical storytelling of her husband, Bernd.
Once upon a time that is no more, and yet it is. I am, I was, and I will be the ancient, ugly Dragon King. 7 heads are mine, and in my jaws I'm clutching 7 chains that make a slave all souls. First chain's rod of hunger for praise, holding one back to strive their path. The next chain shaped from all the narrow boxes in one's mind, barring you from glancing at the lands beyond the borders. Another chain hammered out of all those prejudices, wailing the hidden gifts that glow in others. The fourth chain's braided of the self-doubts, these whispering, poisonous words and thoughts you tell yourself to make you small and ugly. The fifth chain spun from fears, holding everyone unmoving in a deep, dull shadow. The sixth chain twisted off those burning angels, flung against those traits in others one rejects within themselves. The seventh chain poured of all those horrid tears the heart refuses letting go, binding it in ache and woe. The story tells us, if a hero rises up, who lifts his blade and cleaves the chains, he will be free. Oh, far more, if he dares to sever all my 7 heads that are the source of all these 7 chains, and bathes himself within the force of life that's pouring out of me, he shall become, so elders whisper, almost untouchable, a being forged near to invincible. Thus is the tale about the mighty Dragon King. In these times I am called a devil.
Marou, your poem came for me. Came right at me. Your identification of that which the chains were forged from illuminated my heart and reminded me that there is always more shadow work to be done. I hope to bathe in the life of the blood of the Dragon King, to be a freer version of myself. Thank you both so much. Let's now see how our companion Mary danced with her encounter with the devil this week.
As the darkness of winter lingers in the air, we're called to confront our inner shadows. And that is the invitation of the Devil card. Driven by the desire for admiration or acceptance, we often turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms. It's a great way to create an excuse for yourself to not succeed. Because what does it all matter if you have material items and physical pleasures anyway? But in reality, you soon become tethered to those things. But you're not alone in this. We all carry this innate desire that can quietly become a compulsion. I understand that the Devil card is assumed to be negative, but honestly, cards like these present some of the juiciest opportunities for growth. The Devil card reminds us of all the things that are holding us back, how we're often so pulled like a moth to a flame, to things that don't serve us. I encourage you to hold a candle to those feelings of envy, the self-doubt, and see how the shadows and the light respond. This is your invitation to bask in the glow. Just don't dive headfirst into the flame.
Mary, that was indeed juicy. Yes. I loved the subtle callback to our old friend, the Temperance card. And yes, this came for me too, and my own mothy nature. So let's get warm and enjoy things. But how about we not get burned alive? Yes. Thank you so much. Now, when we last saw Kufel and the little bear cub Root, they had alchemized a portal and had arrived at a dark place lit by flaming torches. Kufel was absolutely mortified that he had just unwittingly cubnapped the bear empress's child. Yet he also realized that he alone could not have opened this portal without the intense, unconscious power of the cub. But where had they gone exactly? Koof, I'm hungry, Root said in a commonplace way that did not match Kufel's horror and ambivalence. He did suddenly note that he was hungry, very hungry, and he wasn't sure how long it had been since he last ate. Surely not since he had begun his quest to find Ursula and Ernest. Suddenly, there appeared a massive pot of honey, and skittering across the floor were hundreds of mice. Kufel's keen predator senses awoke, and he set himself to the task of hunting his dinner, with one eye on the cub to make sure they were safe. Root clambered over to the pot of honey, sniffing the alien substance to discover that it smelled wonderful, and tasting it to find that it was delicious. A different sort of delicious to their mother's milk. Root began to devour the honey with great relish. Kufel caught and ate a mouse. And then he had another. Still, there were hundreds of mice, so Kufel ate a third. And still, there were so many mice. And so Kufel continued to kill and eat. Kufel was now absolutely stuffed. He couldn't swallow another bite. Yet, still, there were so many mice. And he was enjoying himself. He hadn't let himself go in ages. And so he continued to track, pounce, kill. Track, pounce, kill. Track, pounce, kill. He forgot all about Root, who had now submerged their snout into the thick, sticky honey, back legs dangling over the edge of the pot, eating the honey as quickly as they could, regardless of how sick they were starting to feel. Oh, Kufel loved this rush. He couldn't stop. Why would he even want to? Track, pounce, kill. Track, pounce, kill. Track, pounce, kill. He couldn't stop. He couldn't stop. He couldn't stop. Enough! A giant, antlered god burst into the chamber. Kufel fell to the floor in the middle of a pounce in shock. Pain shot through his bones, and he jolted up to a cowering stance to view the presence who had just spoken. Awareness flooded over Kufel. He felt the heavy wet of blood on his fur, smelled the pools of blood on the floor, saw the cast-off piles of uneaten mouse carcasses strewn as far as he could see, and the patches of honeyed vomit. The cub! Kufel rushed over to the cub, still dangling over the edge of the pot, inhaling honey, beneath the stare of the antlered one's dark eyes. Root, stop, come down. You'll make yourself sick. The baby lifted their head out of the barrel and suddenly noticed the presence and began shaking in fear. Kufel nosed them down, and Root huddled into the fox, whimpering. Kufel searched for words to say to the antlered one, but before he could articulate any, the entity had vanished, and with him all of the fiery light and heat. Kufel and Root were left in cold darkness. Whew. Rough times for Kufel and little Root, to be sure. And as we know, generally, things will get even more intense before they can refresh and get better. We are now beginning our meditation on the Tower, which is a card I am unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, very familiar with. If you would like to join us on our tarot plea journey, there is information in the description box below. I would like to give a gargantuan thank you to our stalwart companions, Marion Marou, Leah, Bernd, Natura of the Mists, Joanna, and my beloved Alex. And also, a thank you to an unofficial companion who doesn't know he's a companion, but thank you to our dear friend George, because he's the one that the castle came from, and also the massive chunk of pyrite that the devil troll, who is also named Pyrite now, is wearing. Thank you, George. Y'all will never know just how much you bless me and how much your companionship on this journey means to me. So join us next week for the tower, and we will see y'all later. Bye.